Welcome everyone to today's video. My name is Dimitar from the Dimitrov Boulez Piano Duo, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the last movement from the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. I have students that are playing this particular piece and this particular movement, and we get a lot of questions from people who are not our students about how to play this piece. What would be useful tips that help you increase the speed, the accuracy, the evenness in this movement, because it's quite tricky. And in today's video I'm going to share with you a few things that you could pay attention to. So one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted to mention about the last movement is fingering. I think fingering here is very important, and I will explain why. Fingering generally is very important, but here we have arpeggios that are climbing up. We have this kind of patterns. And what I mean by fingering is that it is very important that you don't change your fingering while you're climbing up, like when you're practicing. So for example, if you start with 1, 2, 3, 5, don't start next time with 1, 2, 4, 5. That's the danger in this movement. That I see people, sometimes they put a third finger in the arpeggio going up and sometimes fourth finger on the same spot. That will cause problems later on. So what I would recommend really strongly is once you decide that you're going to start with, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 5, and then in the next 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, that you don't sometimes do 1, 2, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 5, and change your fingering, because that's going to be really difficult for your muscle memory to remember what's going on. You want, once you practice something, that you always go with the same fingering, unless you discover that it doesn't work, unless you discover that another fingering is better, then erase your old one, put a new fingering, and keep to that fingering every time you practice. And it doesn't matter what tempo, it doesn't matter if you practice slowly. Make sure that you apply absolutely always the fingering that you decided on. That's going to speed up your improvement, that's going to increase your speed, that's going to increase the security, like how secure you feel while you're playing the piece. So fingering would be something very important. Now, the second thing that I think is worth thinking about and worth paying attention to is, I wrote, if you want to play fast, because of course the movement is quick and almost everyone wants to get there as quickly as possible. How I see it and how I do it when I play, if you listen carefully, you hear that I don't make any crescendo going up. Actually, if we have to be completely accurate, I have a crescendo, but I will explain now what I mean by I'm not making a crescendo. You don't want to actually increase really a lot your right hand. And in particular, you don't want to increase the majority of the 16th notes. What you want to increase is, you have groups of 4 16th notes. That's the first. Here is the second group of 4 notes. Then, if you want to play quick and fast, you need to maintain playing light almost until the last moment, almost until here. So you want to get... Now, look what's going to happen if I make a real crescendo. I absolutely don't like that. My hands are not going to like that. The audience isn't going to like that, but because at some point that's going to sound very heavy. It doesn't sound good. It's much better what I'm doing here is I'm keeping my right hand light, except for the first note of each group of 4 notes. So I'm creating a slight crescendo, this note, if you listen carefully when I play, now I'm demonstrating it slow and maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but if we play fast, you can listen that the first note is starting to increase in volume. creates a crescendo. At the same time, I don't really make a crescendo with all the notes that are written in the score. That's going to make a big difference if you want to play quick, because in general quick playing has a lot to do with efficiency and lightness. You need to know which notes to exaggerate, which notes to increase in volume and make louder, and which notes to keep light, because your technique is going to be much more refined, lighter. You're going to be able to produce much quicker tempi if you know where to remain light and what to make heavier. So that would be a very, very important aspect to look at when you're practicing the piece. Where can you increase, what notes can you increase in volume, and what notes you should keep light. But this for me is one of the most important things that I concentrate on when I'm practicing this piece and when I want to play it fast, because the piece is very exciting, so you're very likely to get very emotional and very much involved in the piece. And if you don't know how to control that emotion and how to make it work in practice, by being very practical, because that's being very practical, knowing what note to increase and what not, then you're going to run in trouble, because it's a very long movement, and at some point your hands are going to get tired. You want to avoid that. You want to give the biggest opportunity for your hands to remain as light and as relaxed as possible, because then you'll be able to play the whole piece quite quickly. So those would be the two tips that I thought that when I looked at the movement, I was like, what would I focus on if I wanted to accomplish good results with this movement? One is the fingering. Make sure that you decide the fingering. Make sure that you have one and the same. Once it is decided, don't change going up the arpeggios. Don't change from one to another fingering and every time do something random, something different, because your results aren't going to be consistent. You're going to have a lot of wrong notes and you're going to wonder why you feel unstable. That could be because of the fingering. And the second is make sure that you are wise with your crescendo, how you create the illusion of a crescendo and not really make all the notes loud, because otherwise it will sound quite heavy. I'm sure 100% that these tips are going to help you a lot if you apply them well. There is so much more that you can do with this movement, but I thought let's get you started with these two tips. If you have any more questions about this piece or any other piece that you are playing, as always, feel free to let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to check our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We upload there regularly, and you can hear also some of my music there. Thank you so much for watching this video. For me, as always, recording this video for you was a great pleasure, and we will see you next week again.